Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question which I will flip in here. And he seems a little confused because he's saying, hey, what's going on with all these different factors involved of how healthy it is to be overweight but still lifting versus sedentary and everything else. This is all confusing for me because I lost 100 pounds and then I regained 30 pounds, bulking over time, got up to intermediate lifts, and now I want to work on trimming back down, losing body fat while maintaining my strength. Could you talk about this for a bit? So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, do a little bit of crafting, and let's talk about this. Now, that being said, topic of big controversy out there in the lifting world because everyone wants to believe that they can be at a really high BMI and that it's perfectly healthy, that it's amazingly healthy, that they can be the pinnacle of fitness walking around at 5'8" at 220. And the reality is, probably not. Now, when we start talking about different health factors, what you've got to consider is that we are not saying that if you have one or two unhealthy factors in your life that you're automatically going to be not fit, that you're automatically going to die young, that you're automatically going to have problems from it. That's not the way it works. The way you need to look at individual health factors, things that put you at risk for different diseases, different health problems, they're factors. They're not, if you do this, X is going to happen. If you do X, Y is going to happen. It doesn't work that way in most cases, unless you're talking about something that has a very, very strong correlation, meaning like 90+% of people have this effect, but very few things do that. For example, we all know that smoking cigarettes is linked to lung cancer. We know that smoking cigarettes is linked to cardiovascular disease. Some people who are very moderate smokers develop some of these issues very quickly. All right, they develop them sooner than other people. They even die young who only smoke a few cigarettes a day. There are also people who get lung cancer and cardiovascular disease who don't smoke cigarettes at all. Right? They do exist. They're rare, but they exist. You know, it's also rare, people who smoke a pack a day and live into their 90s. Now, does that mean that because of these outliers that smoking cigarettes is, that we could say, well, smoking cigarettes is healthy, or it's not a problem because this person smoked a pack a day, this person ate bacon and smoked a pack of cigarettes every day and lived to be 96. No lung cancer, no colon cancer. So does that mean that these things are healthy? No, they're an outlier. These people got lucky. You got to look at each risk factor that you put at your health as a roll of the dice. That's the way you have to look at it. It's a roll of the dice. Or if you're playing Russian roulette, it's another bullet in the gun. When you look at it that way, you're talking about probabilities because there's curves and probability curves involved with all this stuff. There is a random chance component. Some people can call it fate. They can call it whatever they want. We'll call it random chance. Now, that being said, what's going on with body weight? Well, a few things. A lot of people, particularly over in the UK, the NHS over there tries to say, we don't look at BMI for people who lift weights or who are athletes. We throw that out. We look at that for the sedentary person, and that's what we use. But we throw out BMI for people who lift. Well, incidentally, the amount of steroid use in the UK is astronomical. I would say, in my experience dealing with people in gyms and talking about even with different people there who research it, something like 30% of young men who go to gyms and work out in the United Kingdom use steroids. All right, steroids are readily available. They're widely available. They're not illegal to possess, user amounts. So it's not even illegal to possess them. Distribution is enormous there. There are numerous labs there that sell upwards of 10,000, 20,000 bottles every single month, and there's multiple ones of those labs. Underground labs. So you guys get the idea. You go to a country like that, steroid use is widespread. Because what they found over here in the US, where the gear use is a little lower per capita, at least in surveys that they've done, it's lower per capita. What they found is that when they took people who exercised and in the surveys claimed they didn't use anabolics, I think what they found was that out of those people, survey, I remember seeing a survey on that a while back, less than 1% of them had a BMI in the obese range, the people who lift weights. So you guys see the issue we're getting to there? While being at a healthy body fat. what you're usually going to find is that people who are overweight, particularly when you start looking at BMI, people who are higher up on the BMI scale, they get into the overweight, and particularly the obese category, it's because they use anabolics or they are actually fat. And the reason I state that, when you pull up those charts and look at them, people who just lift weights and who are at a healthy athletic body fat are not going to be obese on the scale. Because most people aren't going to gain more than 20 pounds of muscle. If you look at the BMI scale, it has like if you look at the normal ranges on any of the charts, you've got a 25-pound range to where you're considered to be in the healthy range. All right, so if you gained 20 pounds of muscle and then you dieted down a little leaner, or let's say you gained 25 pounds of muscle from 8-9 years of training, right? You peaked out your natural drug-free muscle gains for the most part to the point of extreme diminished returns. You're only going to be overweight when you're up above 15% body fat. You're only going to be obese when you're well over 20-25% body fat. You guys see the point there? It's people who are on anabolics that push those numbers up. Other than maybe a few very genetically elite people, we're talking of very, very rare. All right, so we're talking about over 99% of people are going to be nowhere near. They're not going to be able to reach the obese range while being at a healthy body fat. So we throw another curve in there of it isn't necessarily healthy to have a high BMI just because you lift weights. It's still a health factor against you, and odds are you're on anabolics, which do carry their own risk as well. Another roll of the dice. It's all about rolls of the dice. When you really look at it, that's what's going on. So, that being said though, for people who are carrying a little extra fat, they're over 20% body fat, they do lift, they've gained lots of muscle, they've gained 20 pounds of muscle, they work out, they do cardio, them being overweight, is it still a possible risk factor? Yes. Does lifting weights reduce the risk factors? Does it mitigate them to some extent of being overweight? Yes. Does it completely remove them? No. Does doing cardio mitigate the negative health markers of being obese or overweight? Yes. But it doesn't remove them completely. It brings the risk from here down to here. So, if you're overweight, because you have gained your 20 pounds of muscle, maybe you are 23% body fat, 25% body fat, but you lift weights regularly, you're pretty strong, you do a fair amount of cardio, are you probably going to be healthy on your blood work? Yeah, you're probably going to look okay. Should you still be concerned with things like blood pressure? Should you watch out for cardiovascular disease? Yes, because if your blood pressure is too high, you probably need to lose weight even though you are healthy otherwise. You probably need to lose weight at that point, and that's reasonable if your blood pressure and stuff is coming back too high, and your doctors can assess this stuff based upon your vital signs, your blood work, everything else. Now, is a person who is a slightly overweight like that, who needs to lose 10 or 15 pounds to be in the normal BMI range, who lifts weights, are they, if they're lifting and doing cardio, are they probably healthier than a normal weight person who's completely sedentary? Yeah, odds are they're going to be better off on their health markers. They're still going to be healthier than the person in the normal weight range, normal body fat range, who is sedentary and doesn't exercise. They're still going to be healthier than they are. They're still going to have less risk factors, but they still have a risk factor. Being sedentary is an enormous risk factor. Being obese can be, but it can be offset to some extent. But it's still a risk factor, and that's what people need to understand. It's still a risk factor to weigh too much, even if it's from mostly muscle. So I'm not telling people that that's perfectly fit. You know, just like with me, my BMI is in the obese range. Even though my doctors will look at my body fat, and people want to argue this all day long because they're morons, my doctors will look at my body fat and say, okay, well, you're in the normal healthy range on your body fat, but your body weight is enormously high. So is that a risk factor? Yes, it is. It's a risk factor. I don't have a lot of risk factors, though. I generally take care of myself, but do I eat a lot? Yes, I do. Is my body weight high? Yes, it is. Would, if fitness and health were my only concerns, literally my only concerns over strength, everything else, would I be slightly better off if I dropped my body weight down? Probably so. I would probably be slightly healthier if I did. So I'm not going to lie and say that I wouldn't. My blood work would probably look a little better. I would probably live longer. In the long term, I probably won't stay up over 200 pounds. I probably won't stay in the 230 to 240 range. As I get a bit older myself, I'll probably drop down. And if that means losing muscle, that means losing muscle. But there comes a point to where a person's got to decide how long are they willing to carry extra muscle, how long are they willing to carry a little extra body fat just for the sake of strength. And that's a valid question that each person has to ask. And it sounds like with the individual asking this question, that's what he's asking for himself. And I would say for him, if he feels ready to drop his body weight down and maintain his strength, go ahead and do so. Your health will probably be better for it. You'll probably add a few years to your life for it. So if you're feeling the need to do so, you want to do so, go ahead. By all means. It sounds like you're assessing it for yourself. You're trying to gather information for yourself of what's going on there. And I'll give you that advice. Then yeah, you probably want to drop a little weight. Drop 10, 15 pounds. Take your time doing it. If you want to maintain your strength, do not lose more than a pound a week. You might even want to cut it down to at a certain point, losing half a pound a week. So yeah, it could take you the better of 6 or 7 or 8 months to reach your weight goal. But you know what? You'll keep your strength and your health will improve for it. What you usually find is that once you're in the process of losing weight, health markers start improving within the first 30 days. If you're anywhere overweight, even if it's from muscle, as the scale starts coming down, most of your health markers, until you get to too low of a body fat, which is another risk factor. Risk factors everywhere. Till you get to too low of a body fat, your blood work will generally start improving for your entire weight loss process, even if you're only losing a pound or two every month. The fact that you are in the process of losing body fat will usually make your blood work and health markers start looking better. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.